Hey friends, Christina here. I wanted to issue a trigger warning for this episode as we discuss the death of a pet in some detail. I also wanted to apologize for the quality of the audio. Lauren had some issues with her mic, and by the time I realized it was too late to re-record. So this episode is a little rough, but so is what we're talking about. So it's fitting, I suppose. We also release an episode that we did back in 2022 that also did not sound the greatest. I did what I could to clean it up, but again, apologies if the quality is not what you're used to. All right, here's the episode. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, a mental health podcast with no tagline today. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And I wish we could be here with better news.
Yeah, I will say I was thinking about it, beforehand, and I was like, I'm not excited about what we're talking about, but I am really glad to be recording.
Yeah, me too. It's felt like forever.
I know every time we take a week off, it feels like a year.
Yeah, so if you're not on our Instagram or if you didn't notice, we skipped last week for personal reasons, which
we're about to talk about.
Yeah, we want to let you guys know what's going on, but in the moment, it was just not a priority.
I mean, I guess I'll just start. So it would be not this past weekend now, but the weekend before.
The day after we recorded the last episode.
Yeah. Pico, my dog, longtime listeners have heard him on the podcast multiple times. He died. Luckily, I've had to tell this story like 100 times at this point, so I don't immediately start crying. I wanted to talk a little bit about how it happened.
Yeah.
I was staying the weekend at my boyfriend's, and we went out to dinner, and we have been leaving our dogs alone together. We were nervous at first. We tested it, and they were fine. At this point, we've been leaving them alone together for, probably like 3 months. And he even has cameras in his house. So especially at first, he put one in his living room so we could check on them. And usually, they're both snoozing on opposite sides of the couch. And we came home from dinner, and the first thing I see is only his dog comes to greet us. And the last time that happened, Pico was hurt. And we walk into the living room, and the first thing I see is that there's spots on the floor, and I was like, that looks like blood. And then I got really concerned, and what I thought is that he might have, gotten hurt and done the same thing as before, ran off and is hiding on the bed. And I was turning towards the bedroom, and then I saw his body on the couch. His dog had killed him.
When you told me, I just couldn't believe it. I can't think of anything more traumatic.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about, because we hear him, it's Pico had some health issues, so I had to be concerned about that. But then you at least think there might be a time where I have to make this hard decision, and this is just the worst way.
Yeah.
It's so unexpected and so hard.
Yeah, he was the most gentle dog I've ever met.
Yeah, and it was really hard for both of us, of course. I mean...
You and your boyfriend.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, I immediately freaked out. You know how you hear the term dry heave?
Yeah.
I learned what dry sobs are because I just, went out of the room, and it's everything, your body is just involuntarily, shaking and making all of the motions, but I was nothing is coming out of my eyes. But I know that, I am destroyed.
Of course.
Yeah.
I haven't heard how it is with your boyfriend now and his dog.
Well, that is one thing. First of all, it was something that I did want to make sure to touch on because I am the first one to hate on dog breed stigma.
Yeah.
And, without saying what, he has a dog that would fall under that. And, and I'm so against that. So I don't like to tell a lot of people that part because I don't want immediate judgment. I just told my parents, Pico died this weekend, but I didn't tell them how because I know, especially, I feel like my dad thinks that it's going to help. If he can incite anger, be like, well, you knew that they were going to do something like that. That stupid dog should be put down. It's like, that's not what I need right now.
Yeah.
His dog is huge. His dog is old. His dog always seemed, like super sweet. I mean, the dog could barely get up on the bed without a boost. So yeah, definitely would not have expected this. But I know he adopted this dog at like 8 years old. And I've thought, multiple times, I'm like, that's my thing when dealing with like breed stigma of dogs is it's not the breed, it's the owner. And yes, this dog always seemed really sweet with him, but also he had 8 years of history.
Yeah.
Like it could have been a previous owner. You don't know what was in this dog's history, and maybe he had to overcome that to be a mostly sweet dog. But
yeah, those are formative years.
Any dog can snap. Unfortunately, some cause a lot more damage when they do.
Yeah. So what happened after the initial discovery?
So I was in the other room freaking out, and and he's with me. We're both freaking out, and I know at some point that I just started screaming at him. I was like, get him out of the house. I can't have it in the house. I can't have it in the house. So, props to this guy, because I feel like he had to do a lot of the hard work too. He, as soon as I said that, then he has like a couch cushion. He's, like wrapped it around Pico's body and took him out in the back of his car because we were going to call my vet and see what to do. Luckily, my vet was still open for a little bit. So, they were still open when I called, and they said, yes, bring him in. And we did, and they took care of him. I haven't heard from them yet. I would think soon, based on their timing, that they said I should get the cremated remains.
Man.
And that too, I mean, like it makes sense in hindsight, because I'm sure, the boyfriend felt like insane guilt on top of everything else.
I'm sure it must have caused some tension at the least.
It really didn't cause tension. And I, had when I could like speak, I had to say later, I never blamed you for this. But, like when we're at the vet and they're talking about it, and they, hand me something to sign, and then they say, I don't know what it was going to be. It was like $200 or something like that to get the remains. And obviously at that point, I don't give a shit. Even I know it crossed my mind. It's like, well, this is the last vet expense I'll have for you, so I guess it's okay. But he already had his credit card out and was just like, yeah, that's not on you.
How have you been taking care of yourself or not taking care of yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say not very well. That was my news that I said I had to tell you. So obviously, not taking care of myself, not eating, not sleeping, trying not to be alone as much as possible, especially because at this point, Pico's the only other life in my house.
Yeah.
And that makes it extra lonely and hard to deal with.
Well, yeah, he's your roommate. It's
exactly.
Like we talked about on our pets episode, which, surprise, we will be airing again after this fucked up story time.
Yeah.
We talked about that, how it's the only thing that's keeping us tied to this place sometimes.
Yeah, like knowing something else is breathing next to you sometimes is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, like not taking care of myself very well. And I had, like my friend Olivia came over to see me. Vicky stayed with me for a while, and the boyfriend pretty much like, well, first of all, because I was at his house during the weekend, but I also, like right after it happened was just like, I can't look at your dog right now.
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was almost like I camped in his room for a day and a half. But then he's stayed at my place most nights since. So after, like a week or so of that, then he's starting to make some comments about, just like he'd ask if I wanted anything for dinner. And it's like, not really. And, we get something and have like 2 bites and be like, eh. And, like, I know he said at one point, he's like, one of these days you're going to have to start eating more. Like, yeah, I know. And I also realized around then that, like, yes, of course, the first 3 days, let's say, literally feel like you can't eat.
Yeah.
And that's just not even a question. But I think I was starting to notice after that I was kind of using that jumping off point as like, I'm sure we've talked about this. what's something that eating disorders do for you? They shut off your feelings. They numb you out. So I think I was trying to continue on that purposefully afterwards, because it's like, well, yeah, I already feel this bad. I don't want to feel more feelings right now.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I figured it would. I'm just like,
but that's me,
Yeah, but we're both people that, have realized that, quote unquote benefit. So it's like, yeah, let's use this. I don't want these feelings. They're terrible.
It's an automatic coping mechanism at this point. We've talked before about how it takes years and years to untrain your brain from like falling back on that instinctively, because it's proven itself reliable.
Yeah. So like realizing that was happening and realizing that he was questioning me anyway, I just told him the eating disorder history.
Oh my God. Interesting timing.
Yeah. It just kind of felt like it was in my face then. And it was just like, you know what? This kind of makes it easier because you're seeing something and this will explain it better.
So how did he react? And what did you tell him exactly?
Well, the first thing I said is, can we sit down and talk first for a second?
Whoa.
He's like, oh, okay. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I know I have to start talking really fast because he's going to think that I'm about to break up with him. And so I was like forcing myself. like it's hard for me to start, but I know I can't put you through that.
I mean, I could see why he would think that, maybe.
Oh, exactly. I mean, he'd already said, like, immediately in the aftermath, he was just like, I thought that you'd walk out the door and never come back. And, other people would. It's not unheard of. So then the first thing I said about it is I was just like, so I have had an eating disorder. And by that, I mean, I 100% still have one. But
nice.
But, I just said that to kind of explain where I was like, it wasn't in the forefront, which is why I didn't feel the need that, we have to have this conversation, stat.
Right.
But now it kind of is, and that's why I felt like it. And I did explain how those things kind of numb you out, and that's what I felt like I was using it for. I didn't really get into it, but I did, hope to convey like some of the history and mention like what age I had to go to treatment, and said I'd been back a couple times since. So yeah, that was about it.
I'm so proud of you. Holy shit.
I knew you would be.
So how did he react?
He was obviously concerned, but I felt like didn't know what to say or what to do.
If someone's opening up about something like that, I think a lot of people do rush to finding solutions.
Yeah, I was glad he totally let me talk and say all I wanted to say before he responded, which was good. But then, of course, I got like is there anything I can do? And I was like, I knew you were going to say that.
Well, how do you respond to people that say that?
I mean, that time I think I said, really, I don't know. It's not something that somebody else can fix.
I mean, that's a better answer than just saying nothing.
Yeah.
As in you can't do anything to help me.
Right.
How do you feel right now in this moment?
I'm not sure. Like afterwards, of course, I had all of the like regret and everything that kicks in like automatically. It's like, oh, I sounded stupid. Oh, I opened up. Oh, gross. Now I don't feel like so hard on myself about that, but it does kind of feel like I don't know how you're going to respond in the future.
Well, nobody knows how anyone's going to respond in the future,
Yeah.
Like one of us could wake up tomorrow and decide we don't want to do the podcast anymore. Like
never.
I know that'll never happen. But that's just an example of something that seems so improbable. Mm-hmm. Like you just never know. And I don't know. He's passed every other test you've thrown at him.
That's true.
It feels weird to be laughing right now.
I've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
I wanted to send you this while we're talking because I actually just got these both today. I got 2 things from friends today. One friend, it was the old roommate. So obviously, like she lived with me and Pico, and she super loved him and she was really upset to hear. And she sent me this, I don't know, it's kind of like a glass thing with his picture in it, so I can like set it up at work.
Send me a picture and I'll post it to Instagram.
Yeah, I'm going to send you both of these because also, and this was such great timing because 2 days ago, I was looking for one of my friends for my birthday once. Like she's a really great artist and she does this amazing, she mostly does like digital art now. And she drew Pico for my birthday. I'm not sure if I showed it to you or not. When you were here, I probably had that picture at my office. But she captured him like so perfect. Like everyone that saw it was just like, oh my God, that's Pico. You know, they're just like so impressed. So wherever I packed it, because I still have shit packed in this stupid place because I don't want to admit that I live here.
Valid.
So like 2 days ago, I was just like searching everything that was still packed. I was like, I want that picture. I want that picture. I want to bring it, you know, like to work so that I can like stare at it. And I didn't have too much time to search, but I couldn't find it. I was pretty upset about that. And so today I got my friend's package, and I also got a letter from listener Orion.
Orion!
And, not only was I happy to see that, but I also, I was hoping so much because he is also an amazing artist and has drawn all of our pets.
Yes.
And because, I couldn't find that one, I was like, please draw a picture, please draw a picture. And he did, and it might actually surpass my friends, or at least they're tied. It might be my new favorite drawing of Pico.
Oh my God.
Look at the bottom one. He's just sitting there. It's with this dopey little smile that he did.
Oh my God. I love the colors too.
For listeners, there's 3 drawings of him on there. And for someone who never actually met this dog, he caught his mannerisms and everything. It's so perfect.
We'll post pictures of them for sure.
So I don't know which one, but one of them's coming to work with me and one of them's sitting at my desk at home.
Yeah, listeners, you should draw a picture of Pico in honor of our unofficial mascot.
Yeah, I felt like if anything, sorry, Ruby, but I feel like Pico and Fang are the mascots, mostly because Fang makes the most trouble.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one of your cats, I'm like, the amount of times I hear, oh my God, Fang!
Yeah, well, that's the thing I wanted to mention is that y'all think that we have pet sounds on our podcast. I'm editing out like 90% of the pet sounds. You have no idea how often our pets fuck up our recordings, but we love them for it, or despite it, rather.
Yes.
And the last episode we did, I don't think I kept it in the recording, but he was making those little noises, those little coughing noises, and then he was climbing up onto your lap and jostling the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really cute. And now I'm like, man, I should have kept that in.
Oh, if only we didn't know.
I know. That is the beauty of this podcast also, that we can go back and hear pets that might not be here.
You aren't able to edit them all out. There's definitely some jingling in some of the earlier ones before I learned to take his collar off.
Well, that's annoying. No, but he'll always be alive on these old episodes is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Oh, sweetie. One last thing I wanted to mention is I think I've talked about that I am trying to get back into therapy. An old therapist, I probably talked about her here, that I had, that was probably the best therapist I've ever had, except she had to cancel 50% of my appointments, often last minute. That was the main reason I had to quit with her. But as I'm trying to get started with someone new and they seem to be really slow to respond, and that wasn't a big deal a couple of weeks ago, but now I'm just like, I need someone now.
Yeah.
Can you respond, please? And I thought of her. I was like, who I really want to be talking to is this person, especially because Pico came to most of our appointments. She knew him. She had actually, I first knew her because she had been a DC direct care at the second time I went into eating disorder treatment.
Oh, okay. So you have history with her.
Yeah. Not only that, but also that was the time I was able to bring Pico to treatment. So she knows him quite well, and so it just felt like I would love to talk to her right now. That would be so helpful. So I just randomly contacted her and, didn't tell her the whole story, but I did say, it's just even if we can only meet once, this is what just happened. And that would be amazing. And so what I had put forward is knowing her cancellation her cancellation tendencies.
Oh, she doesn't have a cancellation policy, clearly.
Right. Then I was like, what if I try and follow through with this new person and say, I'll see them every other week and plan to see you every other week. And then if you have to cancel a bunch, then it's not, like I'm left alone like randomly 3 weeks in a row or something like that.
Okay. So you'd have 2 therapists.
Yes. And, I don't know if that'll work. I'm sure we will talk about that, but she definitely agreed to see me tomorrow morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, so if you have 2 therapists, how does that work? Like, do you talk about certain things with one and certain things with the other?
I'll find out.
I mean, I'm so happy you're in therapy, and that sounds like a really good, smart situation.
Mm-hmm.
I've never even thought about that before.
I've known actually a lot of people that have 2 therapists or more.
Really?
Yeah, but they do. I know, yeah, they have one they say is like really specifically for this.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you that despite this tragedy, you're still making moves. Like, even stuff you were talking about doing weeks ago that you were struggling with doing, like, you're doing them.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of a palate cleanser.
Oh, that would be nice.
We are re-releasing our pet episode. It was the first episode we did together, like the first real episode.
Yeah, it was after our kind of like introduction of we're going to start co-hosting. It was our first episode.
Yeah, we had an episode called The Future of Pickles and Vodka, and that's where I introduced you as the co-host. But our first themed episode was pets.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought was perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect. You get to hear Pico's origin story. It's quite fun. In fact, the episode is named after his origin story, A Room Full of Chihuahuas.
Oh yeah, Room Full of Chihuahuas.
Yeah. So yes, you are about to hear A Room Full of Chihuahuas. Housekeeping real quick. We still have 2 polls out. Next week, we will share the responses to our self-disgust poll. And then if you want to talk about your diagnoses and how that's affected your life, there's another poll that's due 2 weeks from now.
And if you want to submit Pico art, we'll take that too.
If you submit Pico art, you get a free sticker.
Okay.
And if you send in a voicemail, you'll get a free sticker.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't lose either way. All right. There's no good way to end this. So goodbye.
Yeah. Here's the pet episode.
Here's the pet episode. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And today we are talking about a topic that I have secretly decided on and Lauren knows nothing about. But first, Lauren, I am just dying to hear about what you did today because all I know is it involves your dog, and that's it.
Yeah, so it was a event in Missouri, and I don't know, like 45 minutes from St. Louis where I live. And it was called Woofstock, W-O-O-F.
Stop. Stop. I have to back away from the microphone because I know it's going to be loud when I react to these things you're about to tell me.
And yes, so we both brought our dogs. I have some kind of like animal safe, like hair color chalk. So Pico had one pink ear and one blue ear and a gradient green tail.
Oh, how did you decide on those colors? Do they mean something special or?
No, I just felt like I wanted to make it kind of look cleaner than just like scribbling random streaks in them. So I was like, I'll do ears and tail.
That's what other people do, but not Pico.
Yeah.
Pico's a classy pup.
Right.
So tell me about Woofstock.
It was super, super hot and super, super humid. I think the humidity is around like 96% today.
Ugh, it's about that here too, I think.
Yeah.
It's the worst part of the year where fall is so close you can taste it, but you have to get through the last few weeks of August that are like...
Yep. And it was just at like a public park and tons of people were there with their dogs.
Wait, back up. How did you hear about it?
Oh, my friend heard about it.
Okay.
Yeah, she just asked me like, do you want to go to this and bring our dogs? I was like, yes.
Oh, I love it.
The crowning moment that we saw was the wiener dog races.
The wiener dog races?
Yes.
I've only ever heard stories.
So we saw 2 runs and I felt like we saw both sides because we saw one, like they want the main owner to be at the end, so they run towards them.
Yeah.
And I feel like they tried to get somebody that still like knows the dogs to like release them on the other side. And so I saw one where the people released them and they all pretty much like ran over there and at different speeds, but all got over. And then I saw another one where they released them and a couple of them started to run over there and a couple of them stayed. And then those ones came back and were like, oh, my friends are still over here. Let's hang out. And it took them like forever to get someone to actually go over the finish line. It was hilarious.
So were there only like wiener dogs racing?
Yes.
So they wouldn't let your dog race if it wasn't a wiener dog?
No.
How many were there?
I don't know, because we saw like just 2 runs, and I don't know if there were more, and there was like 5 or 6 in each one.
Why couldn't all the dogs race, though?
Well,
I guess that would be kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
More so than it was.
Pico would kick their butts. As tiny as he is, his legs are twice as long.
Oh my god. Did he get a lot of attention?
Oh, he did.
How does he act around other dogs?
He's pretty good. He had almost no problem. My friend's dog, just kind of like a medium-sized shepherd of some sort, she did not know, since she just adopted that dog, and I think it got really intimidated by the larger dogs, because there were times when her dog was barking quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a shepherd, you said?
I think so. It looked, like kind of Australian shepherd, but without the creepy eyes.
Oh, I love Aussies. Even with their creepy eyes. I think their eyes are beautiful.
They are, but they are kind of like digging into your soul.
They're unnerving.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm a cat person for life. I am so salty that there is no such thing as a cat park. Like a place where you can bring your cats and just chill with other cats and their owners. I know it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I know it's a theory, nothing more. It never will be anything more, but I'm jealous of dog owners in that sense.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking of that the other day, especially now because I am a one of each owner.
Yes.
There's places I know where, like they're dog friendly, or like there's a dog bar here where you can bring them inside and they give them treats and stuff. And I was thinking like, well, there's nothing like that for cats. And I was like, oh yeah, that's because if you bring cats around other cats, they hate each other.
Yeah.
It's not like dogs where they can be friendly or not.
It would just be cat owners showing off their cats and all the cats hating it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Instagram is for, I guess. Everyone go follow at Ruby and Little Fang, and then at Pico Suave.
Pico Suave misspelled, so it's Sauve, because I had the dumb when I created his Instagram.
We'll tag all the pets. Pet Instagrams give me life. I will follow anyone's pet Instagram. I don't care if you post once a year or like once every hour. I will love it all.
I have said multiple times, like everyone seems to gravitate towards their favorite social media. Some people do Facebook, some people do Instagram, some do TikTok. I'm like, my favorite social media is my dog's Instagram.
Lauren, I don't even follow you on any Instagram but your dog's Instagram.
That's good, because I only post to my own like twice a year.
This is embarrassing that everyone knows this.
It's not. Because mine is so inactive. My dog has 3 times as many friends as I do.
Yeah, so if Pico Suave replies to you on our Pickles and Vodka feed, it's Lauren.
Yeah, and then I was too lazy to switch to my own profile, which I never use.
You gotta get one now, though. You're a co-host.
I have one, like I said.
Bitch, get active.
Okay.
Bitch. I'm in a mood. It's nighttime. We are recording at nighttime, and I don't do this very often.
This is our first time doing that.
Yeah, I think even when I was doing it by myself, I would try to do it in the morning. Mm-hmm. Nighttime is good for editing, because I can, like, chill, but... So, before I tell you what our theme is today...
Yes.
I just realized that this is the last episode that I'm going to be making in this current apartment that I'm in. I'm moving with my partner to a 2-bedroom from a studio, and it's just 6 minutes across town, so it's not even that far. Okay. And we're going to have an office, so I'm going to like set it all up for the podcast. Maybe get a new computer, maybe get a new microphone. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to be as fancy as you come probably November 1st. Because that's when I'm moving, and I will have more space, and I'll have a little office space, and there's a storage space that almost is its own room. So
I love that for us. We are moving on up. Pickles and Vodka is moving up in the world. Yes. Or at least the co-hosts are. I'm feeling really emotional about it because, like, this is a really special apartment for me. I just, real quick for new listeners, I started the podcast when I lived in DC back in 2018. I started it in the basement of the townhouse that I lived in with my ex after we broke up, but we still had to live together. So
That's always fun.
It was so awkward, and my little sister was living with us too, so it was like a sitcom. Like the 3 of us just awkwardly, like we would just joke nervously all day. And stay far away from each other.
Right.
So I was in that basement, like covered in blankets because it was so cold when I started the podcast. Then I moved to Seattle by myself and I rented a room in a house with a stranger. And I had like the whole upper floor of the house. It was like a loft with slanted walls. It was pretty cool, but it got really hot in the summer. I remember doing a bunch of episodes there. My mom recorded an episode with me there when she picked me up from like rehab. And then after that, I moved to my first apartment ever as an adult. Like I think I was 28 and I got my first apartment. And that was, I have mixed memories of that place because like obviously I did a lot of growing there. I recorded a lot of like great interviews, but I also kind of like downward spiraled in that apartment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I know you went through some shit there.
Yeah, you know, I went through a lot of shit in that apartment. So the apartment that I currently live in is like the best place I've ever had. It's like a 400 square foot studio. It's got hardwood floors and like it's just gorgeous. And it's been the place where I've really like taken recovery seriously and like grown in so many ways. And, you know, I met my partner and he moved in and now we're about to leave. So like a lot of mixed feelings. And I also really appreciate this podcast because it's been like the constant through like this really whole time.
Think of it that way.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say that because it's special. I won't miss like the creakiness that goes on here. Okay, so are you ready for this brilliant idea that I have?
I am so ready.
Okay, so the format of the podcast has kind of been changing since Lauren became my co-host. In the past, I used to do like solo episodes every other week, and then on the other weeks, I would do like guest interviews. We have decided not to do interviews for a little bit, at least, because we don't really know how we're going to do it with two remote co-hosts, and also we're just still getting our groove on, you know?
So last time, we're still dating.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty serious.
Yeah, we're considering making it official. We might change our status on Facebook.
Yeah, we're not ready to move in together yet. But yeah, we're figuring it out. So I think we're going to be doing episodes of just us for a while. But I also wanted to make like it special to have a theme because, you know, I love a theme. I love structure. So, you know, we have the pickle polls.
Yes.
So the pickle polls, if you don't know, it's a question we put out every couple weeks for you listeners to answer. And then we do a whole episode around it. And it starts a lot of great conversations. We play voicemails. It's great. But then we still need like the week in between to fill up with content. Right? So I was thinking every other week that we do these like looser format episodes, one of us can pick a topic.
Okay.
And we can kind of run the show.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I like it.
Yeah, and I haven't decided if we're going to like tell each other our topics in advance. I think it'd be fun to be a surprise.
I kind of like, the surprise.
Yeah. So this week's topic
is
pets.
Oh!
Pets and mental health.
Oh my gosh, that goes so well with the one question that I thought of asking here. So,
ask away.
I mean, I don't know if you had something planned to start.
No, I mean,
later.
So we all know that pets are very good for mental health. I mean, my cats have been the difference between life and death for me since I got them. And I don't know, a lot of people have, I don't know, it's good for people.
Okay, maybe we'll start with my question then, because mine could be kind of a downer, so then we'll transfer to more like positive things. I was just wondering, do you feel like the things you've went through as far as like your mental health, do you feel like it's had any effect on your pets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good, I'll answer it real quick. We can touch on it later. I do want to talk about like our history of pets and how we got our pets.
Oh, that'd be great.
Just
because
as an intro.
I love nothing more than talking about my animals.
Exactly. The listeners need to know like who we're talking about before we tell stories.
Yes.
But in a nutshell, yes, I do feel like my mental health has negatively impacted my pets and rubbed off on them in ways I'll elaborate on later. And it's a constant source of guilt for me.
Yeah. I feel that way. I mean, to some degree. Just certain things I'm always just like, am I messing up my dog?
Yeah. I mean, they've seen some fucked up shit, let's be real.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they probably think we live in the bathroom. At least in my Seattle apartment, like, I basically did. Yeah. It was, anyway.
Yeah, they love us anyway.
They do. Or do they? Sometimes when I'm really depressed, I think my pets don't really care about me. They just stick around me because I feed them.
See, that's my main thing that spurred this question, what I was worried about, because when I've been like in a super like depressive state and, I just don't feel like moving, I have no motivation to do anything, then I sometimes wonder, because Pico is happy to just sit there and chill with me as long as he's touching me in some way. But so that means that he is pretty much just like not moving and sleeping all day, because that's where I am. And I'm always like, making my dog depressed too.
I mean, he goes on walks and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there is a lot less of that when I'm like in a bad depression spot.
He's an old man, right?
He is getting there. I mean, he's 8.5.
Like, some dogs are just cool to chill, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, my ex and I in DC had a Great Dane Greyhound mix.
Ooh.
So she was like a horse. You'd think she'd need a lot of room, but she was just like chilled all day long. She was like a cat in that way. I think it depends on the breed, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know about Great Danes, but I know you hear that about Greyhounds, that it's just like, yes, they can run, but they have just a tiny amount of energy, and otherwise they just want to lay around and
yeah,
chill.
But I'm not a dog person. Like, I've had dogs as a kid, and like, I had a dog with that ex, and it's like he ended up taking her because, like I said, I'm not a dog person.
Yeah.
But I currently have 2 cats, Ruby and Little Fang. And Lauren, tell them what pets you have.
So I currently have Pico, the love of my life. I'm pretty sure that's his full name at this point.
Pico Suave, the love of my life.
Yes. The sweet little pup that I adopted at about 2, and now he's like 8.5. And then I just got my little kitten, Meatball, black kitty.
Oh, minus the balls.
Yes, just meat. That's what my coworker said. He's just meat now.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that on the last episode.
Yeah. Before this, my first pet, like, on my own was a black male cat, and I had him, Gypsy. I had him for, like, 10 or 11 years, so having another little black boy kitty is happy.
Oh my god, I didn't know you had a cat for 10 years.
Yeah, that's like the whole time I was in Chicago, I had Gypsy.
I also keep forgetting that you lived in Chicago, which I went to high school in a Chicago suburb.
Okay. I mean, I knew you lived around there. I didn't know when.
2005 through 2010.
No, I got there in 2007, so we crossed some.
I went to treatment there my very first time. That's crazy. I know a few of our mutual friends have also like gone to treatment there. Mm-hmm. So it's life is so small when you have an eating disorder sometimes.
I know. That's
well, because the treatment centers are so like spread apart. Like if you're from a certain region, you all tend to go there.
Yeah, and that is a crazy thing. Oh, we're getting on a tangent. Remember, tangents
I love it. It's fine. I'm about to break it by telling our pet stories. So
okay, but I was just gonna say, yeah, that's something that I've run into. Like when I had to go to a couple of treatment centers, and of course, you're there for a while, and you start talking to people, and it's like, oh, let's add each other on our social media or whatever.
Yep.
And someone would see a friend of mine that I talked to in 2002 on LiveJournal, and they're like, how do you know this person? They're like, I went to treatment with them like 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, yeah, cool.
You are literally Eli into the bone.
Oh, no.
or at least like one of the side characters.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's wild. Okay, but pets. Yes. So real quick, I'll tell the story of how I got my pets. So Ruby, I was living in Austin, and I had just started dating the man that I would eventually move to DC with. And he lived an hour away, so I would often go over to his apartment, like, after I got off work at Starbucks at, like, 3, and then I would just chill there until he got off work at 5.
Oh, my God.
So, the morning that we found Ruby, he texted me early in the morning on his way to work, and he was like, oh my god, look at this kitten in my parking lot, and he sent me a video of her, and he was, like, in a suit on his way to work, and he was like, she's so cute, she ate some food, and then I was like, oh my god, what if she was still there? And so I'm like 6 hours later, I get there and she's still there. And it's now like 100 degrees because it's summer. It was July and she was in like under a car, and these kids were like walking by with their dad, and they were like trying to grab at her, and like they were being super loud. And I made up my mind right then, like as soon as I could, I would like grab her. Like,
yeah.
So they disappeared. I got her to come out. I took another video of her just like cuddling with me and eating food out of my hand. I'll post it to the socials. And so I picked her up and took her to the bathroom. My ex came back and, like, he had gotten her kitten food and stuff. And we talked about, like, trying to find an owner. We talked about, like, taking her to a shelter because she didn't have a chip or a collar or anything. She was really, really skinny. It was obvious, like, she hadn't been taken care of in a while. And then there was, like, a moment of silence. And he said, I guess we better just take her in. It was such a weird way he said it. Like, I remembered it. And so, yeah, after that, it was history. She's named Ruby because she was found in July, and my birthday's in July, and the birthstone for July. And then when we were deciding her name, my ex was drinking, like, a Ruby Redbird beer. And I saw it. I was like, Ruby, that's cute. So, yeah, that's how I got Ruby. We should do this in spurts. So, like, our older pets and then our baby pets. So
yes, because I was going to say, I love my story of getting Pico. Basically, as soon as I got, like, this bonus that I knew was coming from work, that I was going to have some extra money, and I was like, as soon as I get that, then I'm going to adopt a dog. And so I got it, and I went over, and I picked one out that I loved, and I thought that I was good until I found out that even though I already had my cat, had him for a while, that my lease did not say that animals were okay. They were only okay by, like, specific permission from the owner. So I didn't realize, you know, like, that I'd just said, like, oh, this is my cat. And they said, that's fine. So it was a weekend, and I couldn't get a hold of them to, you know, like, say they're okay with it. And so this, you know, like, dog that I found and I liked, she's really cute. Then I had to let that one go. And I knew, like, it's a high, what word am I looking for? not high volume.
Those cockapoos, they're so high volume. You can't keep those in stock.
Basically, like, a busy shelter that people are going through all the time. So
that's high volume.
Okay. So
good job.
Okay, good. This is just post-nap brain.
Yeah, it's my fault. I thought we were recording an hour earlier than we were, and I woke Lauren up from a nap.
That's okay. Yeah, so I knew that dog wasn't going to be there. So once I had everything set, then I think it was a Tuesday, and I went after work, and I was looking, and I knew that I wanted a small dog because of my apartment size. I did not specifically want a Chihuahua, but I was, just because they were small, I was in front of a room of Chihuahuas.
Oh my God.
And this shelter worker was, you know, I was explaining what I wanted, and she was trying to get me to take one of these Chihuahuas. She's like, I fostered it for a while, and, you know, like, it has this problem and this problem, but you only have to give it this med, and, you know, like, this is fine. I'm just thinking in my head, like, no.
Yeah.
And there had been this older man shelter worker who heard the beginning of my story, and he walked away. And then he comes back while we're still talking, and he just motions to me, like, come here, and he tells me, I found your dog.
Oh my God.
Like, okay.
I got chills.
Yes. Because he had just come in, apparently. He was kind of in there, like, new, like, getting used to things and them getting used to your personality room. It was a bunch of dogs, like, going nuts because they'd just gotten there. And it's little Pico in his cage just kind of, like, huddled in the back, like, okay.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, you know, I was like, oh, okay, yes, you know, like, let's meet him. And he brings him out, and we go in a little separate room, you know, and he sets him on the floor, and I'm sitting down on the floor, and he's like, here's a treat, you know, if you want to give him a treat so that he comes to you and he knows you're okay. And I hold it out, and I mean, Pico is like head down, tail down, like afraid to even look up. He's just slowly coming forward, like, okay, can I eat the treat? And, you know, and I give it to him, and then he just still just really timidly just, I'm sitting cross-legged, and he just crawls into my lap like, is this okay?
Oh my God. Do you know anything about his history?
I don't. When I got him, and this will probably come up talking about how pets are good in some ways, he was very dirty, he was very scruffy, and he was very skinny, so much that for the first, like, 2 or 3 months of his life, I felt afraid to pick him up because I could feel his bones so much. I just felt like they were going to, like, it felt like they were going to crumble to dust under my hand if I put any pressure on them. So I was just like,
oh my God.
Oh, honey.
Oh, I thought the door creaking was Meatball meowing in the background.
Oh.
He's like, talk about me.
Yeah. Hey, I'm cute.
Oh, I love that story so much. Pico's so like your dude.
He is.
Like, I was thinking when I, you know, by the time I lived alone with Ruby, the thought occurred to me that this is my roommate. Like, I have a roommate, and she has a personality and a temperament and things she likes and she doesn't like, and I have to respect her. And it's like,
yes.
So that's the story of our OG pets. Now let's talk about our babies. So,
Yes.
I had Ruby for 2 or 3 years on my own. Yeah, 3 years. It was just me and Ruby. We did everything together, good and bad, which we'll talk about later. But when I got my own apartment, I really wanted to get a kitten. When COVID first hit, I got laid off my job, and so I sheltered in place with my parents for 6 weeks in Virginia. And my sister had just gotten a kitten, and I just got kitten fever. I even had a name picked out. I was going to name him Popcorn. I knew I wanted a boy kitten because my sister had a boy kitten, and they're just, I don't know. I think they're more chill than female cats.
Possibly. I definitely think that's true that people say that black cats have a good temperament. And
oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I wasn't supposed to get a black cat. I got kitten fever. I moved back to Seattle, and I had decided I was going to get a kitten. I got another litter box. I got a cat tree. I got all the stuff for a kitten, and I found the kitten I wanted on Craigslist. It was a black and white fluffy kitten with blue eyes. Ruby is a Maine Coon mix, so she's really floofy. And so I was like, oh my God, I want another floofy kitten. And so I had borrowed my friend's car to drive to Olympia, which is an hour away from Seattle, to pick up this kitten. And an hour before, they basically ghosted me. They hadn't been responding to my messages.
Oh, no.
And then 30 minutes before, I tried calling multiple times, didn't get an answer. And so I was just in my friend's car. I was like, well, shit, I'm getting a kitten today.
Yeah.
So
some way I'm coming home with a kitten.
Exactly. And so I went straight back to Craigslist, and I found this litter of kittens. They were all black, but one of them didn't have a tail. And that's the one that I was like, I need him. And so I drove to Olympia, and this 12-year-old girl hands me little Fang through a window of a minivan. Her mom's driving. I have the pictures I took in the car with him. He was so fucking tiny, and right away he started screaming and exploring everywhere.
Aww.
But yeah, that's how I came to get little Fang.
Aww.
Tell me about Meatball.
So Meatball is a very new addition for me. I probably got him about a month and a half ago. I mean, he's only, 4 months old now. He was some friends of mine. They had recently, I think they had two, they have a lot of animals. And they had 2 cats. They were mostly outdoor cats, but they were theirs. And 2 of them had died recently. And also they had 4 dogs and one that, sorry, Pico's trying to get my attention.
That's going to happen a lot during this episode.
Yes. And one of their dogs that I think was their oldest, and the husband in particular, I think he had that dog before they got married, it was very much his ride or die dog, and had him forever, and they just had to put him to sleep. So they just had, to say goodbye to a lot of animals, and then the wife apparently found 3 little kittens. And in light of all that, she wanted to bring them home. First, they were planning to only, foster them. And then they did decide to keep one, which I thought would happen.
Foster failure.
Yep. The couple, they were he was one of the people that I was in the band with for a while. So I actually showed up for band practice, and that's what his wife was there, and she just said, Lauren, I think you need Meatball. And I'm like, I need a what?
Excuse me? Yeah. You don't know me.
Right.
You don't know what I need.
Lady, I'm a vegetarian.
Wait, are you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Me too, mostly.
Yeah. But yeah, so, then she explained that they were the kittens, and especially then, they were very, very tiny. I think she said they were 8 weeks old when I first met them. And, Meatball was the one that came out and let me hold him. And I think that pretty much did it. I didn't say so then, but I went home and I just kept thinking about him. And in a week or so, I was like, yeah, I think I want to adopt him.
You got the fever.
Yeah.
That is such a blessing when a kitten just drops into your life. We should all be so lucky.
And the funny thing is I gotten Gypsy as a kitten. I tried to introduce a cat before. I did not want a kitten. I said, I've already done this.
I've paid my dues.
Yeah. But the cat I tried to introduce was a cat from hell, and unfortunately it didn't work out. I felt terrible having to give him back.
But that happens sometimes. People shouldn't view it as like a personal failure.
Yeah, I really was only okay with it in that I knew, talking to the shelter in the first place, that they were clearly a very good shelter. You know, they even said, they were like, if this doesn't work out, please bring them back to us. You know, like, don't try and rehome them yourself or anything like that. We'll take care of them.
That's
it's fine.
Amazing. Do you want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, it's called 10th Life in St. Louis.
That is such a great name.
I know.
Also, I want the title of this episode to be Room of Chihuahuas.
Love it.
Maybe, we'll see.
But yeah, so that cat was the cat from hell, and then, you know, I end up with a kitten, even though I said I didn't want a kitten because they're crazy, and I keep telling my friends, I'm like, yes, he's crazy like a kitten is, but you know what? He's been easier to deal with than that insane cat that was like 4 years old.
Yeah, every animal is so different.
Yes, so Meatball is here to stay. He's a good guy.
Meatball is here to stay. We love Meatball.
Yeah.
So that's all of our pets.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I don't really have a plan now. I just wanted to talk about, like, the effect that pets have on your mental health. And like we said earlier, there is sometimes a lot of guilt that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you do have mental health issues and you want a pet, what should you be asking yourself? Like, what are some things... I don't know what I'm trying to ask here. Like, how do you know if you can even take care of a pet? Because that's the question, like, I was asking myself when I got Little Thing.
I don't know if you can necessarily know, but I knew the basics that pets entailed, so I know I at least asked myself, knowing that I'd been through some points where I just, like, can't even, like, get up, that I was just like, okay, if I get a dog, I have to take him outside every time he has to go to the bathroom. I have to know this. I have to take him for a walk at least once a day. I'm like, am I prepared to do this even when I really don't want to?
Yeah, and pets are so good in that way, in that they kind of force you to have something to be responsible for. They get you out of the house in some cases. They get you to engage with something outside of yourself and take care of something. And for me, like, it was nice to know that I could do that. Like, maybe if I can take care of this animal who's completely dependent on me, like, maybe I can take care of myself or even other people, you know? It's very empowering in that way.
I've heard that about the kind of, like, the journey, like, people that start AA, and they're like, at a certain point, you can get a plant, and then you can get a pet, and then you can handle a relationship with a person.
That is a great call, honestly. I even thought about mentioning plants at the beginning of this, because I know not everyone can have pets.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just give a disclaimer now. Like, we are talking about, like, animals, domesticated animals, but if you're a plant parent... then you have my approval. That is also a worthy endeavor, and I can't do it. I kill every plant that I try to take care of.
I'm just very much against plants because I don't like the idea of a cup of dirt sitting in my house.
All my plants are fake.
Yeah, that's what I'd have to do.
So yeah, I guess going in, you should know that pets are a big responsibility. You shouldn't take them lightly. Like, we should just get all the disclaimers out of the way now.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously a financial responsibility, which you should know.
Yeah.
And usually, shelters are pretty good about that. I know, like, I got asked that every time I adopted. They were just like, are you prepared? How much are you prepared to spend per year for this animal?
So, yeah, right up front, I would say make sure you're financially able to take care of a pet and take care of any unexpected, like, medical bills that might come up. If it's a baby pet, like, spaying and neutering them is super important.
Going to need a lot of vaccines in the beginning if they're babies.
Exactly. So just bear that in mind. Besides knowing yourself, like, no one can know if you're ready for a pet than you.
No shelter ever asked me, like, are you in a good enough mental space that you can take your dog out every day?
Oh my god, don't give them ideas, Lauren.
I know.
You're gonna blow our cover.
Well, it's hard enough, I feel like, to adopt animals. I mean, I was just adopting a cat the first time, and I was like, do you want a blood sample? Do you want a promise of my firstborn child? I mean...
See, one of my pets I found in a parking lot, and the other pet I found on Craigslist. So, like, I don't know if I endorse that, but like I said, if a cat falls into your lap, maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. But once you know you're ready to have a pet, and you get a pet, I think it's really, really good for your mental health. Mm-hmm. There's just something about knowing that you're not alone. Like, I know the first night it was just me and Ruby on our own. I was so happy to have her there because I don't know what paths my mind would have taken if she hadn't been there. Mm-hmm. It was a scary, some might say sad situation, but I didn't feel alone because I had Ruby.
For Pico, having never had a dog before, and, you know, they told me that he pretty much seemed house-trained, but I didn't know how he's going to react in a new space, even if he is house-trained. So the first night, I kept him in his crate all night, and I was thinking that first night, like, oh, you know, like, maybe we'll transition into sleeping with me, and, you know, like, if that works okay, maybe he can stay in the bed a few nights a week. The second night, I felt okay about it, and I was like, well, let's see how you do in the bed. And he slept in the bed with me the second night and has every night since then.
Oh my god. Sleeping with pets is so great.
Yeah. So as soon as that happened, there was no turning back. I was like, yep, this is your spot.
We're bonded for life.
Yes.
So my studio in Seattle was under 180 square feet. It was super studio. It was a micro studio. Yeah. So I had a loft bed. Mm-hmm. And the cats couldn't climb the ladder, and so Ruby was big enough to jump up onto there from the couch, but Fang couldn't do that yet. So the very first night I let him stay in bed with me, I woke up and there was like shit everywhere. If you have kids, like, good for you. I don't know how you do it, because having a pet is like having a kid.
Yes.
Between Fang pooping everywhere and Ruby vomiting, we'll talk about that later. I'm a former bulimic, and Ruby is a cat who vomit. Oh. Yeah, like mother, like daughter. It's wild, truly. Like, we both have really crippling anxiety, and we both vomit everywhere compulsively. I don't know what it is.
Well, you know, Pico and I both have trouble getting our eating on track when we're in a new situation, so I guess we're similar too.
What do you think about the theory that, like, pets become their owners or owners become their pets?
I mean, I worried about it as far as the depression thing. I felt like that was transferring to them.
Okay, you're taking it real serious real fast.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. I joke when I'm, like, don't know what to say, and that struck a chord. So, yeah, keep talking about it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I have honestly worried my own habits around food and things like that. I have worried that they will transfer to pets. I don't feel like they ever have. But sometimes I do wonder, like, oh my gosh, am I feeding them less than I should because I, think that I'm rationing it correctly? Or, did I think, like, they seemed a little heavier today, so I'm, giving them a little less?
Oh my god, I've found myself thinking that way too.
Yeah.
Like, Ruby had to lose weight for a while, and it kind of fucked me up, honestly. Because she just is so desperate for it, and, like, I can't give it to her, and it reminds me of, like, being on a diet, and, like, it's just not a good feeling.
Yeah, Meatball seems to want, like, everything I can give him as well. And I'm like, you're a kitten and you're growing, I know, but I don't want to overfeed you and immediately turn you into a balloon.
Yeah.
so yeah, like, I have to stop at some point.
I never had cats growing up, only as an adult, and so I went into it without knowing anything, and so I have often asked myself, am I feeding them the right amount? And, like, the internet is honestly your best friend in this situation. Yeah. Also, like, everyone with pets that like, people want to give you information. Sometimes it's not the right information. So, like, be smart about your sources.
On the other hand, I got Pico about a month out of my first treatment center. So I had been there for like 4.5 months. And a month later, then I get my first dog. And like I said, he came and, like, and the vet confirmed, he was like, oh, he's pretty underweight. And,
You're like, same. What's your BMI, Pico?
At that point, I was probably just like, you should have seen me 5 months ago.
I'm dead.
I don't know if I've properly conveyed it, but Pico is quite tiny. He is about 6.5 pounds.
Oh my god, he's smaller than Ruby. He's smaller than Fang.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the time when Meatball's going to be bigger than him. It's coming soon. But so when I got him, I think he was like 5.7 or 5.8, and that's what I remember. The vet told me, like, you can tell that he's underweight because you feel this and this and see this, and he's like, he should probably gain about a pound. I was like, that's adorable. I have to help you gain 1 pound.
That's like a sixth of his body weight.
I know, and I thought of that. But, like, I understand, but it just sounds so much, like, if somebody had told me, like, well, we need you to gain a pound, I'd be like, okay.
That.
But, yeah, I think the point I was originally trying to make is because of that, I did feel like he was good for me in the beginning, right out of treatment, because, I did feel like he was very fragile, and I was worried about him, and I knew I had to help him do that. And I remember, like I said, in new spaces, he doesn't really want to eat very much, and he kind of ignores his food. So at first he was doing that, and I would sit down in the morning, and I would just, like, grab, like, a protein shake or something like that, and I never did breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, this time I would. So just, like, anything that I would grab was a big difference. And I would just plop down on the floor with him with his food in front of him and be like, I'm having breakfast, why don't you? Like, let's sit here and have it together. Yes.
So when I am in a guilt spiral and or really depressed, I will often feel guilty for quote unquote using my pets for my own personal growth, or like as some sort of crutch.
Okay.
Do you ever feel that way?
I don't know. I'm not totally sure what you're talking about.
Like, I got a pet to fix myself or something, or like I have pets so I won't kill myself, I mean, obviously that's not the only reason I have them. I love them, but like they have helped me in those areas. But like sometimes I think this feels a little exploitative, like I don't know.
I agree. I did work. I mean, not so much with Meatball because he just kind of came like surprise, but definitely with Pico because, like I said, I was out of treatment for 1 month and then I got him, and it just kind of felt like, am I just trying to fill a hole?
Yeah, and I think we've all asked ourselves that with any good thing in our life,
Yeah.
But also, they are animals, it's not like having an actual child. I mean,
Right.
and
I do get to leave him alone all day. It's
Yeah.
not, like leaving a 2-year-old. Like, have fun, I'm going to work.
I mean, it can be a mutually beneficial relationship, and there's nothing wrong about that. As long as you are making them comfortable and loving on them, like, reap the benefits, because there's so many benefits.
I mean, something I love right now, because Meatball is actually turning out to be very snuggly, and Pico gets jealous about that, but sometimes I will just be like chilling out, and one of them will be on either side of me, and they'll just both be cuddling up to me, and I'm just like, this is a life.
So good. There's nothing better than having your pets like snuggle next to you, and just you're drawing energy from them, and they're drawing energy from you. It's just like very beautiful.
Yes.
Now I'm just thinking of all the times that like I was like throwing up or like high or whatever. My pets were just like chilling.
Yeah, let's get into the dark times. You alluded to that earlier.
I know. Part of me feels nervous about talking about it because, like, you have to know I'm a really good cat mom. I buy everything for them. I take care of them before my own needs, honestly. And I would never do anything to hurt them. With that said, I do have mental illnesses, and sometimes I don't take care of myself, and that does impact my ability to take care of them. And it makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
It makes me feel really bad, and I don't know necessarily what to even say about it, except that it happens. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Tell me a story, please. I feel like such a shit trash person right now.
Oh, no, I'm going to go ahead and get, like, super vulnerable and feel like a bigger trash person.
Oh, goodness.
So, this was between the first and second time that I went to treatment, and I think I knew at this point, like, the second time was coming up pretty soon. And at that point, not only was indulging in all of the old eating disorder behaviors, but Also, I just didn't want to be in my own head at the time. So I don't feel like I have the traits so much of actually being an alcoholic. But, like at this specific time, I just didn't want to be in my own head. And that was a way to get out of it. So I was drinking quite a bit every night as well. And especially, like I'm restricting as well. So I'm drinking on a pretty much empty stomach. So that always goes well.
Blackout City.
That's a super smart idea.
It's called being economical, Lauren.
I'm a cheap date.
Oh my god, I hate it so much.
Yes. But so, like one night I misjudged, and again, I can know like how many drinks like will get me just kind of, okay, but I'm not drunk. But when you aren't eating anything, that can suddenly turn on you very fast.
Yeah.
So suddenly, yes, I was much drunker than I meant to be. And I had hardwood floors, and I had a wooden stool in my bedroom. I'm sure that it's because I had recently had to step on it to kill a nasty bug.
All right.
But so because of that, this wooden stool is in my bedroom, and I hit a slick spot on the floor. And it was a fall where I just felt like instantly I remember feeling like this is not going to be good. If I put my hands out, I will probably like break my wrists or something. So I immediately just like pulled everything inward. But what happened is my one side smashed onto the stool. And at some point after that, I decided, yes, because I am so drunk and dumb and needed food at that point. So I just ordered a pizza.
As one does.
Yep. Crawled into the middle of the floor and slept until he knocked on my door and then, got it. Thinking like, oh, like that's going to be a bruise and that's going to feel bad. When I woke up in the morning, I couldn't shift from like sitting to standing or standing to laying down without involuntarily screaming.
Fuck.
It just came out of me, and I was like, I'm not even trying to.
Where's Pico during all this?
He's just standing around and watching. So that's what I feel like. And what happened is I actually broke 2 ribs. That's why it hurt so much. It was a Friday the next day, and so, I had to call into work because I couldn't move, and I was getting a dog walker to come in the middle of the day, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So he was supposed to come on Friday, and I was sure to let him know right away. I was like, just so you know, I'm going to be in the apartment, but I honestly don't think I can move, so still please come and give him a walk.
I think, like, that moment when pets see you like that is worse than, like, them walking in on sex or something.
Yeah. Because I don't remember, obviously, so much the night when I was almost blackout drunk, but I do remember the next morning when I could not move, and yeah, Pico just kind of, like, standing there, coming up to me, being like, hey, hi, Mom, how you doing? All right, I'm going to go out with this guy on a walk. Yeah.
You think your pet is going to, like, be super concerned and stay by your side when you get hurt? But honestly, in my experience, they just kind of minded their own business.
Oh, I think he absolutely was the next day. He was like I said, I don't know what happened that night. Maybe he was licking my hair while I was sleeping in the hallway. Ruby
eats my hair if she's, like, trying to get me to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very similar story with Ruby. I ordered a ton of like binge food with Uber Eats one night, and I didn't wake up. Like, there were one instance where I didn't wake up, and then another instance where I just like blacked out in the middle of it with the food all around me. And I woke up and Ruby was just on the other side of the room watching me, like, no big deal. Like, she didn't even try to eat the food, which I'm super grateful for. But yeah, they've seen us at our worst.
Nothing against you, but when you described that, I just felt like, oh, I feel the guilt of seeing them just, like, watch you, like, oh my god.
Yeah. And I think pets do teach us a lot about how to handle emotions. Like, I've never had a close friend die. Like, I haven't really known anyone who died, honestly, except for grandparents that I didn't really know that well. And so, but I have had a lot of pets die. Like, as kids, we were allowed to have a ton of pets. We were 7 kids, homeschooled. What else are we going to do? Our mom was pretty great. Like, she let us get a lot of pets. So I've had pets, like, be born in my care. I've had pets die. And it really does prepare you emotionally for some things.
So I've had people close to me die, but I have not really experienced a pet dying, and I'm terrified.
See, that sounds not worse. It's an interesting situation because it was like someone
that had watched Gypsy for me before, but was not necessarily a friend of mine. Like, I wouldn't really have contact with her. She took him because when I moved from Chicago, then I was going to live with my aunt, and they said dog is okay, cat is not.
Okay, I was wondering what happened to him.
Yes.
Oh, so you've never had a pet die, ever?
Yeah, I was going to say, so he was older then. At this point, I would say probably is not alive anymore, but I didn't have to see it.
Yeah. It sucks. Like, one of my dogs as a kid got hit by a car. I think I was like 10 or 11, and that was really rough. It was very unexpected and violent. And I don't know if I've had any pets die of old age because, like, they were either, like, fish or rodents.
Yeah.
Or, like, they
I did
got
have a
sick.
hamster die once, so I guess I've had a pet die, but I wasn't super connected to the hamster.
It's traumatic in its own way. I mean, I feel like we should talk about that some more.
Yeah, that is something maybe like a year or so ago. I know I had to discuss it in a full therapy session because it was so traumatic for me. I had this dream that Pico likes to often, I mean, sometimes he cuddles against my chest at night, but usually he settles like snuggled against my back. And I had this dream, and it was one of those like really realistic dreams. Like, nothing is weird about it. I was just waking up in my bed, and Pico was against my back, and I turned around, and he was cold and not breathing.
Oh my god, I've had moments like that too with my pets, where they were just sleeping so deeply, or like,
yeah.
Oh my, that is the worst feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that, yeah, like in real life where it concerns me, like, but this was a dream where, like, he actually was dead in that dream.
Holy shit, that's so scary. Did you just, like, hug him extra tight when you woke up?
Oh my gosh, he got so much attention for, like, the whole next week. And like I said, I had to bring that up in therapy, because I was just like, I know, it didn't happen, but it was one of those dreams that feels super realistic, so, I mean, it felt like I went through a trauma.
Yeah, it's good to process it now, because, like, even if a pet dies of old age and has a super long life, it's never easy.
No.
This is such a downer, but, like, it happens.
Yeah.
And people who do struggle with mental health, I feel like, are extra susceptible to being traumatized by something like that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you love it, the pet, and you take care of it, and, like, you're the best pet parent you can be, they're happy. That's all that matters. Like, they had a good life.
Yeah, I feel like these things can happen, at the danger of, like, maybe you are too connected and too dependent on your pet, but it's not hurting the pet if you are.
Exactly. Do you have anything else you want to talk about pets and mental health? And
I've told Pico since I got him that he has to live until he's 20.
How old is he now? 8?
Yeah.
All right, Pico, got 12 more years.
Yep.
Cats can live, like, well into their 20s.
But yeah, that was the good thing, too, about adopting Meatball as a kitten, is I was like, okay, Pico's kind of getting to middle age, and you're a kitten, so
yeah.
At least there'll be a life in my house, for sure.
Yeah. The other day, I joked to Brett that, like, something about having Ruby when I was 40, and then I was like, oh, actually, that's not a joke. She could very well be alive, because I'm 30 now, and she's 6.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's possible.
It's very possible. It's so weird. It's almost like you have to be responsible and stick with your decisions.
I mean, my friend kind of pooped out on me and just sort of like started ignoring me, so I guess we're not friends anymore. But before then, she had 3 cats, and when we last hung out, they were, I think, 17, 15, and 14. And the 17-year-old cat, he'd always been a big cat. And I was starting to notice, I was like, this cat, like, he's looking skinnier, and, like, is he okay? He's getting old, and I was really worried about him. And then when we were, like, sitting around watching TV, then he, like, jumped on the kitchen counter and knocked everything off and knocked the trash over and got into it. And I was like, yay, you're still a shit.
Yep.
You're still
in the
gonna
heart.
Yep.
I have one final story I want to tell, because we were talking a lot about, like, how do we know if our pets really love us, and, like, do they just tolerate us because we feed them?
Right.
The one story that I always remember when I feel like that is the time I went to rehab. So I was suicidal at the time, and I had blackout drunk called my ex on multiple occasions asking if he could come get Ruby, because this is the same ex that found her, so he knew her. So I was like, if I'm gonna die, I want him to have her. And he, like, told my parents, and all this stuff happened. I ended up getting her into the care of my friend from outpatient treatment. We were the only 2 women in this group of, like, alcoholics, and so we had each other's numbers, and I was like at the end of my rope, and I called her and arranged for her to take care of Ruby. She then ended up driving me to the ER, and I went to treatment and all this stuff.
Wow.
So when I got out of treatment, the cat Ruby had been with her for 11 days in the house where she shared with her father.
Mm-hmm.
He actually died a few months after that of cancer. It was really sad. I didn't know he had cancer at the time. It might have happened really suddenly. But anyway, he developed this really strong bond with Ruby while I was in treatment. And she would only come out from under the bed when he would come in with her food. But other than that, they told me she did not come out really at all. So the day that my mom picked me up from the hospital, we drove back to Seattle. I walked into the house and immediately she like darted out from under the bed. I like had sat down on the floor. She jumped onto my lap and just started loving on me. And that is not Ruby's personality. Ruby's very standoffish. Yeah. Even to me, like she's not always lovey. And so I think about that moment every time I start feeling inadequate as a pet parent, because you do have a connection. Like, I can't tell you the science behind it, but animals are they know things.
I will tell you my counterpart to that then.
Please.
Is I've done some long car trips with my mom sometimes, and we did one last year, and when we would stop at a gas station, I'd go out and pump gas, and my mom would go and like use the bathroom or whatever, and then I'd say like, okay, like sit in the car with Pico while I go use the bathroom. And she said that she would sit in the car and he would jump up on the dashboard, and she said he would watch the door that I walked in, and she was just like, his attention was unwavering until you walked out.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, even, like, she's another person in the car. He's not just left there alone, but he is just like, where is my person?
Pets know their people. Mm-hmm. Everyone just go and hug your pet, or think about getting a pet, or get a plant.
Yeah.
Or get, like, a virtual pet.
Hug a stuffed animal and pretend like it's your pet. I think I did that first, actually.
Yeah. I know tons of people as adults with stuffed animals.
Yeah.
It's not weird.
Hug something and love them.
Hug something furry. Or not furry. Just hug something.
Yeah.
Just hug yourself, man. But yeah, that's the pet episode. At least the long overdue episode about our pets.
So now when I'm always talking about them, you know about them.
We'll post a lot of pictures to the Instagram, don't worry. Before we say goodbye, I just want to remind everyone there is a pickle poll out that we will be talking about next week. It is about burnout, which I have talked about recently. So if you have experiences with burnout or tips for avoiding it, or just want to like share the crazy story of how your life spiraled out of control due to burnout, tell us.
And I've made it my goal to try and get better about this, because Christina said that she does not like to do this, and I don't really either, but I'm going to make it my mission is to promote us. So since I'm not prepared for this today, just leave a review on Apple or things. Just do it.
Thank you.
Please say we're good if you like us.
I noticed we have 11 Spotify ratings. I didn't even notice. I'm so bad. This is why I needed Lauren. But yeah, if you rated Pickles and Vodka on Spotify, thank you so much. Yay, we have a 4.8 rating. Let's make it 5.
Sweet.
Do it for Pico and Meatball and Ruby and Little Fang.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see you next week. If you like what you heard, tell a friend about the podcast. You can send them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can listen to our entire catalog and find our newest merch. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/picklesandvodka. My personal Instagram is at xtinajumper, and Lauren's is at Lauren3_AFH. We'll see you next week.